Hi, everyone. I am Jen Robinson, the publisher of the online magazine Peaceful Living Wellness, and I am really excited to be getting back to our Local Heroes series of interviews. For this one, I am just delighted that I get to bring you the wisdom and the beauty of one of my dear friends. We've known each other for almost 2 decades, and this beautiful woman, Barbara McNally, she has been a guiding light for me throughout the years, and she has more recently formed a foundation for women's empowerment. And she is an author of several books. And she's going to talk to us today about those books and her journey in sharing how she has been empowered as a woman and how she is inspired to share that with other women. Hi, Barbara. Thank you so much for joining us.
Well, it's great to see you, Jennifer.
You too. So please tell us a little bit about your journey. You and I last saw each other, oh my gosh, I want to say maybe 8 years ago, because we've been here 6 years. And I don't think you and I saw each other in the last couple of years before my family moved from Southern California. Barbara lives in the beautiful Coronado Island off of the coast of San Diego. And that's why she glows with all of that, that lovely tan she has. Um, so tell me what you have been doing in that time, because this foundation, your books, all of that has come to fruition in what about the past maybe 6, 7 years?
Well, actually, time flies. It's been 15 since Unbridled came out, but I've had
Oh,
3 books. Yes.
my
So,
God.
yeah, well, close, but still, time flies. And I didn't mean to bring it up right away, but since we're just like, it's so cool to see you in person. I wanted our audience to know that we shared a best friend, Julie, who died of breast cancer about 8 years ago, or somewhere past that, I think. But
It was
it
10
does.
years ago.
10 years ago, you remember the exact
Believe
date.
that?
Yeah. And you know how that has to do with my life, and maybe someone in your audience, is sometimes we get like a shake from the universe that's like, wake up. And I feel like I've had a few shakes in my life. And one of them was Julie's death. And that, wow, I'm so lucky to be here. And I want to live my life to the fullest, some kind of for those who can't. And I do have the ability to give back. And so I'm really grateful to be able to do that and enjoy life. I'm not a martyr at all, but I
No, I
really
mean,
enjoy life.
you and I follow each other on Facebook, and I see you're out on boats and you're going on trips, and I think that's a really important thing to bring up to people. So often in my coaching practice, I find that women feel like they can't do things for themselves. They can't enjoy life, or somehow they're thought of as lazy or self-indulgent. And you and I have both, and I think we were inspired by Julie, lived a life that we really do enjoy. And at the same time, we're able to give back to other people. So, just for a little background, y'all, Julie is my yoga mentor. I met Julie when my son was a year old. I was taking her mommy and me class, and she encouraged me to go into yoga teacher training, to become a yoga teacher, and to pursue a career in sharing the benefits and beauty and wisdom of yoga with the world. If it hadn't been for Julie, I probably wouldn't have done that. And she was taken from us, from this earth, very early. Barb, was she 42 at the time?
I can't remember, but yeah, young.
Yeah,
Too
she
young.
was in her early 40s, and it was rapid. And to see somebody who's so healthy, so vibrant, who enjoyed life so much, to just almost vanish because it was so quick, it was shocking. And I am very spiritual. Barbara and I are both spiritual. And I know that Jules is with us as a guardian angel, so to speak. And I know that I can feel her energy. And that to me helps me keep going through some of the harder times. And so that is something that is important for everybody to understand, that it's okay to do good things in life, to enjoy life. And it is also normal to go through hard times and to have sorrows and challenges. So tell us a little bit about your journey to becoming an author.
Well, I think at first writing my story was therapeutic and cathartic. And then I realized it was a big change. Unbridled was my first book, and it was kind of launching out of a 23-year marriage, and my kids were gone, and a fresh start. And I needed inspiration too to how other people recreate themselves. So that was one launching pad to recreate myself. I knew Julie too through yoga, and she was single, and we had lots of fun. But we were also working on balance. And so throughout these, since last 15, 20 years, I've been kind of studying what I want to learn. And that's balancing the lover, the fun part that wants, to be unbridled and enjoy life. The lover, that fun part. Then, of course, the mother, the caring part. I'm still a mom, and I'm so lucky to be here. Even though my kids are raised, they still need me. And who else can I nurture? So I'm a physical therapist nurturing wounded warriors also. And the warrior is that grit inside me that, makes a goal and is able to achieve it. And then lastly, the sage, listening to my intuition, my inner wisdom. And I think I'm never perfectly balanced. That's why balance, I say, is a verb, not a noun. But I'm always balancing between the four, and the peak in life is to integrate them all when I'm actually passionate and I'm enjoying life and I'm reaching my goals and I feel like I'm following my calling in life, or my, our inner sage, what's meant for us. And those peak moments don't always happen, but that's what I'm striving for. And I found other women are striving for that too. So that's why I wrote kind of the next two books. They're just about inspirational women that we can look at as mirrors of reflection on, when we see somebody else doing it, we can see it within ourselves.
I love that. It is so important for us to have mentors. And they don't have to be mentors that we can sit down with and have a discussion with. So I'm a former political scientist, so I am just enamored with women who were in the political field. And in our history, that doesn't necessarily mean that they were in politics, but Eleanor Roosevelt, as a first lady and somebody who was a political force, she has been a mentor to me through learning about her. So I see her as somebody who, she shows those four faces, and she talks in her memoirs about how she had very difficult depression. She talked about how she had certain amazing loves in her life, how she was a political warrior, and how she had to grow to trust her intuition as well. So tell me about the amazing women. Here's the book, you guys, and you can find this in the shop, which is becoming the marketplace on peacefullivingwellness.com, which is, of course, the magazine, for Faces of Femininity. And I love that you used femininity, because so often we use feminism, and femininity is softer. I think it's more approachable for so many women. So did you choose that word because it had more of a softer feel, or was it just, it sounded good to you?
No, that's a good point, because I feel like lots of times feminism sounds like harsh, like women's rights, but when we say someone's feminine, they're soft.
Yeah.
But part of being a woman and being feminine, of course, is the mother, the nurturer, which we all are, even if we don't have children of our own. And the lover, men love to look at us. We're gorgeous, all women. But the warrior is the one where some men feel like only men are warriors, but it is a feminine quality. It's to be strong, be able to set boundaries and set goals and reach them. So I felt like a warrior is a very part of being feminine, and they're not an oxymoron. And the same with the sage. You have your college degrees, your professor, and me too. And sometimes we take for granted that it used to be writers were only men, and the first writers had to write under a man's name. So
Right.
to say a woman is a sage, to say she's intelligent, in the spiritual world, even witches were burned, because they were threatening to men, their intelligence, and they were actually just doctors,
Yeah, they were
midwives.
healers. They were healers, right? And
Right.
midwives.
So I liked femininity, and I didn't want it to sound like, of course, being feminine also means we're warriors and we're sages.
Yeah. It's lovely how you balanced these four different aspects of being female. Tell me a little bit about the women you chose to highlight in your book, because they're from all over the spectrum, so to speak.
They really are. And it was hard to pick only 43 women, but I thought this might give everyone a taste and kind of just think in a new way. And then, of course, they can research more women. But I did put Eleanor Roosevelt in, and I love her quote in that no one can make you feel inferior without your permission.
Right.
And I love that. And she was very controversial. She was the first actually gay woman to come out, even though it took her later
Decades.
years.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
decades now. But she was a very strong, dynamic vice president. President's wife,
Yeah.
and such a strong role within the White House. And that was the first president's wife that actually took an active role. And she really made some big changes for us. And yeah, very strong woman. So I put her as a warrior because she was just such a warrior and broke so many glass ceilings way back then.
She did.
So that's cool. We liked her too.
I love her.
Yeah.
But I love all the women that you have in this book. I mean, you've got Madonna in here, and you've got, Anne Frank, Gloria Steinem, Joan of Arc. You just covered the gamut. This is probably going to be an unanswerable question, so it's okay if you're like, Jen, but who are your favorites? If you could pick like 3 favorites, who would they be?
No, I think that's a good question. I do have my favorites because they inspired me personally, but I wanted to put other women because they are mirrors of reflection. Because when we love somebody, we like a quality in them that we want to nurture in ourselves. So I would say in the mother category was Anne Sullivan, because she taught Helen Keller. And when I was young, that inspired me to go into physical therapy to help not only the blind, but physically disabled. And she inspired me. It wasn't Helen Keller, which surprised people, it was actually her teacher.
Yeah.
So I wanted to give other examples. To my daughter, it would be Julia Childs, because as a mother, you figure we don't always think of Julia Childs as a mother figure, but cooking is so nurturing, and the way she nurtured people through cooking. And my daughter loves to cook, so that's an inspiration for her.
I love it.
I could just try to be quick in each category. The lover, I like that you mentioned Madonna. A lot of people do not care for Madonna. She's very controversial. But what's fun about picking these celebrities, I'm not putting them on a soapbox like I admire everything about them. I don't even know Madonna. But what quality I like in her that I wanted myself is her ability to recreate herself. Mm-hmm. So I'm taking that and I'm saying I have that ability too. And I've been able to recreate myself and keep my sexy on, and as I age, and that inspires me. So you might have a different characteristics in Madonna that you like, or you might have someone else who inspires you to live out your passionate side. And depends on your age. Younger girls may pick Beyonce. Right. Older girls may pick Cher.
Yeah.
Women that have kind of lived it out and in their own way. And so I do have my favorites, and it was hard to pick only 43, because the more I learn, the more I would love to put 100 women in there, but at least this is a taste, and then it hopefully will inspire. I don't know, maybe there's someone in the book that you really inspired you in your career. I'm not sure if there's.
It's so funny that we're talking about Madonna, because I think that as a Gen X woman, Madonna was kind of the first strong woman that we experienced on our own level, that we're watching the videos on MTV and you just could feel like she was in the room with you. Yes, I learned about Gloria Steinem, right? And I learned about the feminists. But really, Madonna and her ability to basically give the finger to all the men who were telling her how to be and how to do and how not to be and how not to do. She really has empowered me as a Gen X woman to not take that from toxic masculinity, from other women who would cut her down for the way she was dressing, for the fact that she was so provocative. And she just was like, this is me, this is how I'm going to be. And, you know, when you're going through your teenage years, of course, you don't want to necessarily put yourself out there as this completely sexual being, but as an empowered being. And then in your young adult years, and I don't know about you, Barbara, we've never talked about this before, but with my going into academia and actually you being in physical therapy, those are male dominated fields. At political science, I was one of just 2 women in my master's program, and there were more of us in the PhD, but it's still very male dominated. And even with their subtle cut downs, you could still feel it. And you still had to kind of give them the proverbial middle finger to say, hey, don't do this to me. Did you find that in your field too? Or was it a little bit more relaxed?
Well, I have to think about that for a minute. But boundary setting, I would say my weakest of the mother, lover, warrior, sage was definitely the warrior in boundary settings in my marriage.
Okay.
I was a yes person, and I grew up like lots of us have history of, I was, women to do whatever the man says and have the house clean, and as long I could fit a career in, as long as it fit in with his lifestyle. So as long as I could raise kids, as long as it didn't interfere with his work. And we definitely weren't partners in careers. And Gloria Steinman says there's a man yet to ask advice on how to manage a career in marriage. Right. Because so that was difficult. I think I had so I have really worked on setting boundaries in kind ways, and not being the victim, but to say, no, I can't do this. And I think with men at work or dating, I really work on saying no and saying, let me think about it. And I think most women warriors is a difficult, setting goals and reaching them is tough. That's not the fun part of life, and it's tough. And but we need it to, if we're going to achieve any of our goals. And otherwise, I love the saying, our needs are met, but we'll always have wants. And those are our dreams. And if we lack having goals and dreams, then we're like old curmudgeons. So I mean, it's important to set those goals and not let anyone get in the way of you. And you did it. You got your master's and you've started this podcast. I mean, I'm sure you've had lots of stumbling blocks and you've had to say no to some things in order to be able to do this.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And, it's funny because I left academia and started my own business so I could have the flexibility to be a very present mother I have a special needs child. So academia was not allowing me to have that flexibility. And it, in a way, was me saying, I need to be a mother and a warrior at the same time. And that's really hard. It's one of the things I work with my clients on a lot, in that I work with a lot of entrepreneurs because I tend to network with them and they're who come across my path. And they will take on the same mentality in their businesses as they had in their corporate jobs, that they have to work. They have to do more than the men. They have to do more than everybody else. And yet they open their own businesses so that they could have more flexibility, but they haven't retrained their mindset yet to allow themselves to find more balance, to say, okay, it's time to close the computer. Or here's a perfect example of something I had to do. You and I were scheduled originally to do this interview last spring, and I started to have some pretty consequential mental health challenges, and I had to step back and I had to take some time to rest. So I took the entire summer off. I didn't close down the business. I have a staff that was running it, but for some things I said, I need to do this next fall. And I did that with a lot of different things so that I could give myself rest, because during the social isolation of COVID, I was like, well, what else am I going to do? And I would work 10, 12-hour days. and I started having severe neck pain. I started having unexplained anxiety, unexplained depression. And it was basically, I just needed to rest. And I needed to get out and see people more because I'm a super extrovert. So being
Oh, that's so
shut in
cool.
my house was a little hard. So here in South Carolina, we are pretty much open again. I know in California, you guys still have some pretty strict mask mandates, which I'm glad for that. I still wear my mask myself. I'm vaccinated. The magazine is pro-vaccination. We have been running a pro-vaccine public service announcement campaign on our social media. So I do want to put that out there. But how are you guys in California now? Are you feeling like you're out and about more?
Yeah, definitely it's opening up. Definitely it's opening up. And I'm vaccinated too. Being a healthcare worker, I was one of the first, so I was
Yeah.
lucky for that. And I encourage all our audience. I don't know, do you have call-ins during our interview?
No, I don't do call-ins because this is actually for YouTube. So it's not
Oh,
live. Yeah.
okay. Well, I just maybe for the women who are listening or watching this to think about that. What boundaries, because we can't say yes to everything. So we have to say no to something to be able to say yes to this. And I think not, I don't want to be a man basher, but the warrior is our hardest. And men don't usually have a problem to say I'm golfing on Saturday and you find something you like, or I'm taking a job over here and we're all moving the family. And men are raised not, and that's great, they're strong, and I encourage women to be that strong. And I also encourage, if there's any men watching, men to bring in their mothering, their nurturing side. And
Yeah.
because men are taught not to be nurturing and not to show their feelings and not to be caring, and so it's like we all have our own issues, but definitely for women, just it is hard to set boundaries. And if
Yeah.
I'm glad that you did, because if we don't keep care of ourselves, we can't help anyone else. And not to bring
Amen.
it back to Julie. Yes, and not to bring it back to Julie, how we started, but it's funny, it seems to be coming up for me. And I'm sure some of the people listening have friends that have committed suicide or have gotten so depressed that they were not coping with life and then they're not there.
Yes.
So we have to keep care of ourselves so that we can be nurturing to our kids. And it may seem selfish, or be nurturing to ourselves so we don't leave the marriage. So
Yes.
it's really not selfish. I mean, it's self-care. We need to, and I'm glad that you were able to take some time off to keep care of yourself. And this has been difficult for so many women, being living and working at home with little kids. And yeah, it's been, the warrior definitely needs to come in there so we don't give up. I don't want anybody out there giving up,
You know, and it's interesting in that we have some interesting statistics coming out. I heard a story on National Public Radio recently about how, as people are going back to work, women are not going back to work, professional women are not going back to work in the same numbers as their male counterparts because of childcare issues. So we don't have enough childcare workers. Plus, a lot of the childcares have not opened again. So it's the women who are staying home still and doing the homeschooling and trying to work, or saying, I have to leave my job because I'm still homeschooling because the kids are home. And I thought that was really interesting. It's 2021, almost 2022, and yet we still have this gender difference. That said, there are some amazing examples of men out there. I noticed, one of my favorites that's in your book, Ruth Bader Ginsburg.
yeah.
I'm listening to her biography right now. Ruth was able to have the law career and make it all the way to the Supreme Court because her husband was actually the primary caretaker for the children. And she is very vocal about that, how he was the cook in the family. He worked, but he was the one who came home to pick them up from daycare. And so we have examples of that throughout history, but they're fewer than they are of the women doing that. So I love that you want to encourage men to have that nurturing, because nurturing is part of fatherhood too. And that's a
Right, and then
beautiful
they get the
thing.
reward. I love, so yeah, Ruth's in the book,
Yeah.
and she's a great inspiration for all of us women. She says, women will have achieved true equality when men share with them the responsibility of bringing up the next generation.
Yeah.
And, she says, let men in the house so women can get out of the house.
Yes.
That that is really hard. And for you women out there, I think it was hard for me to, I didn't want to fight, and I didn't want to say, this is important to me. But I've learned through the years and working with caregivers who have disabled husbands that it's important to be able to say, I'm going to be gone from this hour to this hour. This is important for my mental health or for our income or for my physical health, and let them know when you'll be back. And sometimes husbands are like kids and they'll throw tizzies, but it's okay. They learn, and that's part of boundary setting. But it is important to say when you'll be back, just like you do to your kids. When we leave our kids, we don't sneak out the back door and they don't know where we've gone and when we'll come back. It's important to tell our husbands, this is where we'll be, when and where, and when we'll be back. And then, they get confident that, hey, they handled the kids or they handled things, and
Yes.
it really, and they get to, it's a joy. We all know it's a joy to get to know our kids, and
Yeah.
it is fun. And they get that joy when we let them, and it's good for you women. I think most of the women out there, because you're a little younger than me, my daughters are out of the house now, and it's, even if you don't have to work, women, it's really nice to keep your foot in the door with some interest besides being a mom, because they do grow up and get their own lives. And if there's any empty nesters out there like me, if I didn't have this career, I think I would have a void. But I have so many interests and passions and goals, and that keeps me alive when my kids don't need me quite as much right now. So
I have clients, I do stress management coaching. I support women who are not knowing what's going on in their lives. So a lot of them are the working moms, right? That they're juggling so many things. But some of my clients are empty nesters, and especially the ones who were attachment parents, that their children are now gone and they've lost this incredible part of themselves. And they're like, now what? And they go into depression and anxiety. And even if they're still married, but many are divorced, right? So they have never taken the time to find out what their interests are. They've never taken the time to pursue things that are important and fulfilling to them. So what we do at Peaceful Living Wellness, what I do in my coaching practice, is to help women, irrespective of the stage of life they're in, to find meaning in their lives, to find something that's purposeful. And then lo and behold, we find out, hey, that brings us a lot of joy and happiness too. But women do tend to lose that much more often than men do. You don't hear about a lot of men suffering from empty nesting. I'm sure there are some out there, but I've never met any myself.
Well, and many of us were so busy living our lives and raising our kids that we forget what we loved. A lot of people say, like, I haven't even had the time to think about it. And if that's the case, maybe go back to when you were a kid. What did you love doing when you were young?
Yep.
Was it painting? Was it dancing? Was it sports? Maybe go back to that. Maybe it was writing like me. I mean, I became a writer later in life, and I was inspired by Louise Hay, who became not only a writer, but a publisher in the first women's publishing company that was after the age of 50. So women out there, it's not too late to start a new career or a new passion. And you recreated yourself with a new passion and career.
Absolutely.
So it is possible. We just, part of it, I think, is finding what interests us and then going back to the warrior, setting that goal. And that's why you're there. I think to have a coach where you're accountable to reaching those steps. Otherwise it can become like just overwhelming trying to start a new career.
It can be. That's why we need the support systems. And I think with the 4 Faces of Femininity, each one of these faces, it is also very open to support systems, to community, to not just doing it alone. And that's why I like very much, and I'm inspired by the 4 faces that you chose, because that's really important. Tell me where you are in your life right now. Are you feeling kind of more sagey? Are you feeling more lovery? Where are you?
Oh, I'll have to say, I really do enjoy balancing all four. I
Yeah.
really do. And I guess my biggest, well, my New Year's resolution, like yours, was to get out and was to be a butterfly. That was my word for 221, to be
Oh, I
more
love it.
lighthearted, more carefree, more outgoing, because I felt like it was a cocoon when we were going through, I was kind of introspective during, and I was writing a book, which takes a lot of introspection and
Yeah.
being more of an introvert. So this year's really been an outgoing year. Um, I was thinking before we even talked, and I wanted to bring this a little up. I guess another thing for me is to help women is to, instead of saying why me, not what now. And one woman that inspired me in the military is Tammy Duckworth. She says, I had my legs blown off in Iraq, and because I had my legs blown off in Iraq, people are listening to me. I'm not going to get my legs back, and that's fine. But if that gives me a platform to talk about the things that are important to me, like education and jobs, that's great. So I want to inspire you all, and I have to do the same for myself because everything I say I'm working on to get out of the victim of why me, I get into what now. And life does throw us curves. And when life throws us a curve, it's like, okay, how can I turn this into a positive? Or what can I do with this? And Tammy Duckworth was she's a congresswoman now, but she was in the military and double amputee, has gone on and just accomplished anything
She's
and
amazing.
everything. Yes, and I think if she can overcome these challenges, I can overcome mine. So I think all of us are,
Inspiration.
do have challenges, and how can we turn it into a positive is,
Yeah.
and what now is why you're here for coaching, I think, to help these
Yeah.
all of us.
Well, and that is something that so many of the authors who write for Peaceful Living Wellness, that's their mindset as well, that we're all about how to make easy, healthy changes. So I'm a coach. I deal with mindfulness, mindset, stress management, that kind of stuff. But we have people who are nutrition experts. We have a relationship expert. Oh, I love her. She talks all about sex. um, we have fitness experts, yoga, and everybody is there to help people figure out what's next for me. How can I be healthier and happier? Because I think when it comes down to our base needs, that's what we all need and want is health and happiness. I want to circle back to this point about purpose and meaning, though, because along with the Four Faces book, you have also created a foundation, and our Local Heroes series, which is what this video is a part of, and the accompanying article that I will be writing, it is specifically for people who have either nonprofits or B corporations that they are doing something to give back to this world. Tell us a little bit about your foundation.
Well, it's called Mother, Lover, Warrior, Sage, because these are the things I've worked on and want to help other women. And I say we can just help in wherever our backyard is. I happen to live in Coronado. We have 3 military bases.
Mhm.
So I've done, and a physical therapist working with wounded warriors. So my backyard, I have caregivers that need support and need a day out. And I found that need within my own backyard. So mine's specifically happens to be for caregivers for wounded warriors. We have a spa day where we get to get together and not only just have a spa treatment, but lunch and support and resources. So I found that in my own backyard, but I'm sure wherever you are, there might be something that touches you in your own backyard. I was actually listening to a podcast that I think talking about full circle. They said the key of AA is if you don't do the 12 steps, you won't recover. And the 12th step is giving back and being a sponsor for someone else.
Mhm.
And I feel like I've gone through this transformation of becoming an independent woman and learning to balance, without running off with the lover and any addictions or, being a bitch, setting boundaries, like how do we balance this in a soft way? And that's my journey. And by helping other women, I feel like that's the full circle. And I just thought that was interesting with AA. They said that if you don't become a sponsor, you won't recover. I never even heard that. So I was like,
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah. So I am a very grateful member of the group that is for friends and family and friends of addicts and alcoholics. It's called AlAnon, but we use the same 12 steps. So we can't be in recovery from our codependence, our worry, our need to control, because we feel so out of control, if we're not giving back. And you get so much from giving. It's amazing. So if people want to know more about the 4 Faces of Femininity, so of course you all can buy this. You can buy it on the website, you can buy it on Amazon, you can buy it on Barbara's website, which is, just want to double check, still BarbaraMcNally.com.
Yes, just my name.
And that will all be in the written article as well. And people can just click right through from there. How can they learn more about your foundation and how they can benefit from your foundation?
Well, you can just Google Barbara McNally. I do have a website, and you can see if you're a wife of a wounded warrior or caregiver and you want to participate in Spa Day, reach out to me. Okay. And if there's anything, I'm just hoping to inspire other women to help in their own backyard in whatever cause they feel close to the heart. And thank you for sharing that about Al-Anon. I think that's really cool. And
Al-Anon is an amazing organization, and it really helps. You know, I always say to the other people in the groups that I wish this were open to people who don't have alcoholics and addicts in their lives. And essentially it is open to anybody, but we talk mostly about the things related to our own illness, again, which is the codependence. So I really suggest that if anybody has anybody in their life, maybe even if they're not an alcoholic or addict, but maybe some mental illness that causes the same types of emotional fluctuations, to reach out and find an Al-Anon group in your area. There's another group called CODA, Codependence Anonymous. That's the same thing, 12-step program, and they're free. They're free. So, and you just go, they do sometimes, they pass a basket around and you throw in some coins or a couple dollars, because sometimes they have to pay for their meeting space, but it's not something that you have to spend a lot of money doing. And they have really amazing people in them.
Well, that's awesome. Well, I think that's our theme today. We got to keep care of ourselves or we can't keep care of other people. Yes. So whatever you're out there wanting to do, I think you just need to somehow make the time and call Jen and figure out how you can set boundaries to make the time to keep care of yourself so that you can let other people heal on their terms too.
Yeah, and that's especially important for the wounded warrior caregivers, because caregivers, mothers, right? Yeah. We give it all to the people we're caring for. So I love that you are encouraging them, you're giving them the opportunity to take care of themselves. Now, have you thought at all about the next 5 years and where you would like to take your foundation, if anywhere? What you would like to have happen with your book? What's up next for Barbara McNally?
Well, the book's only been out a year, so I thought I'd leave it to the universe and just see where it goes, and speaking engagements I've gotten and different women I've gotten to work with, and kind of see where that leads me. But I have to admit, I'm a grandmother now, and I have a 3-year-old granddaughter. And I love, for me, writing is the creative fun part. And I see a children's book in the future, because to me, that's part of my right brain, my creativity. And for someone else, it may be painting or dancing or, but I really love to write. It's an expression for me. And so it's a lot of work, but it's also really fun.
It is fun. It is fun. But it is work too. And there are times when I have to sit down and write my monthly blog, my monthly article, and I'm like, what am I going to say? What am I going to say? And then I have to do a little meditation. So for me, it's meditation. And then it's like, oh yeah, this is what needs to be said now, right? Yeah. I personally hope that there are many more books to come from Barbara McNally, because the ones you've written so far are so inspiring and they just give beauty and wisdom to the world. And that's awesome.
Well, thank you. Yes. And I'm so happy to reconnect with you.
You too.
We've grown a lot in the last 8 to 10 years. We really have. So
yeah, a lot.
Careers, and I think that's amazing.
Well, and now that COVID is hopefully going away, I have a trip to the West Coast planned next summer. So
Right.
I will let you know if it's going to go through for sure, and we can get together in person.
Well, great. And maybe we could do an event at the Chopra Center. Wouldn't that be a big goal?
That would be
We'll meet there.
awesome. That would be awesome. And I don't know if maybe you hit up Hay House for your children's book publication, but that's right there in Carlsbad too.
Right, right. I know. There's so many opportunities out there. And right now I'm open, and I can see that you are too, to grow. And as your kids lead you less, I'm sure there'll be lots of more adventures and ways you'll take this.
I am half empty nesting next year. So I am very excited for this. We have somebody graduating from high school, and he's already gotten one acceptance letter. We're waiting for the others to roll in. They won't be until about February. But yep, I'm launching one. Yes.
Well, congratulations. That's awesome.
Well, congratulations on having a grandbaby too. I
Well,
love
do you
that.
want to tell the audience how to connect with you too? If they want to join your group and how to
They
do
are
it.
going to know all about how to connect with me because this is on all my platforms. So
Okay.
I just want to make sure that they know how to buy this amazing book. Again, you guys, Faces of Femininity. It's going to be linked all throughout the article. It's going to be in our marketplace. It's on BarbaraMcNally.com. It's on Amazon. You can't miss it. So it's a beautiful book. And you know what? I also love it for teens and young adults because there's absolutely nothing in it that could be controversial to that age group. And that's such an important age group. I have a 15-year-old daughter. So it's such an important age group to have them understand the empowerment that comes from all four of these faces of femininity.
Well, that's a good point. And that's one reason I wrote it, is because so many people, I wished I'd had this for my own kids. Because when we're young, when we're raising kids, when they're teenagers, they may not listen to mom, but they may find inspiration for a career and to launch then. I shared, I love Anne Sullivan, but my kids took different paths because our children come through us, right? They're not of us. So if you're a mom, this is a great book for teenage girls, because you could just ask, well, who do you like in the book? And that's the direction they want to go in that field, and that's
it
what we
gives them
want to do.
so many different choices too.
Right, right.
And this video is going to be posted in November. So right before Christmas, it might be a good Christmas or Hanukkah present, or Diwali, or Kwanzaa, whatever your celebration is. It's great for gift giving. All right, Barbara. Oh, it's so great to see you. And again, it's lovely to be able to do one of these interviews. I love doing these, period, but with somebody who's so close to my heart. So it is just an absolute honor and pleasure. Thank you for joining me today. And everybody, please reach out to Barbara at BarbaraMcNally.com. She's also on Facebook and Instagram under Barbara McNally. And you can follow her on either of those platforms as well to see what her next book is going to be.
Okay, sounds great. Thanks, Jen, for your time. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.